Welcome to the February 27, 2023 meeting of the Sacramento Regional Transit Board of Directors. This is a virtual meeting. All speakers, the board, and staff, please announce your name when you begin to speak. This meeting is being live streamed, and the slide on the screen shows the information on how to join the webinar via Zoom. You can also call into the meeting at 253-213-8782. Although if you heard that, you're already in the meeting. And the webinar access code is 837-9338-8162. If you're participating by phone, please push *9 to indicate a desire to comment. If you're joining us online through Zoom, please push the raise hand button. Be sure to unmute yourself when it is your turn to speak and voluntarily state your name for the record. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Director Budge.
Here, just in time.
Director Daniels.
Here.
Director Hume. Director Jennings.
Here.
Director Kozlowski.
Here.
Director Laloe.
Here.
Director Maple. Director Cerna.
Here.
Director Singh Allen.
Here.
Director Valenzuela.
Here.
And Chair Kennedy.
Here.
With that, we have a quorum at 9 votes, and this meeting of the Sacramento Regional Transit District will be cablecast on Metro Cable 14, the local government affairs channel on Comcast Consolidated Communications, and AT&T Uverse cable systems. This meeting is closed caption and webcast at metro14live.saccounty.gov. Today's meeting replays Wednesday, March 1st at 1 p.m. and Friday, March 3rd at 2 p.m. on Channel 14. This meeting can also be viewed at youtube.com/Metro Cable 14.
Thank you very much. Would everyone who can please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And that takes us to our first item, which is the consent calendar. We have 2.1 through 2.10. Is there any member of the board that would like to have something pulled or has any questions at this time on consent?
Here's none. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to make a correction on the agenda for item 2.10. The resolution number should be 2023-02022. The staff report has the correct resolution number on it.
Okay, thank you. Director Budge, did you have a comment?
I was going to say, hearing none, I will move that we approve 2.1 through 2.10 with that correction.
I second that.
Okay, we have a second by Director Laloe. Is there any member of the public that would like to address the board of something on consent? And you've received no correspondence, correct, clerk?
Correct.
Okay, then please call the roll.
Director Budge.
Yes.
Director Daniels.
Aye.
Director Hume. Director Jennings.
Yes.
Director Kozlowski.
Yes.
Director Laloe.
Aye.
Director Maple.
Aye.
Director Cerna.
Aye.
Director Singh Allen.
Aye.
Director Valenzuela.
Yes.
And Chair Kennedy.
Aye.
The consent calendar passes with 10 votes.
Thank you. At this time, we will skip to item number 6. Is there any member of the public that would like to address the board at this time on an item not on the agenda?
Jeffrey Tartagia has his hand up.
Jeffrey, go ahead.
Thank you, because I couldn't see on my screen the way to unmute. I believe you can hear me.
Yes, we can.
Okay. Simple question. And I would like to encourage that some workshops be done for the new board members. But this last week, it seems like we've had more than 20 bus cancellations occur with bus routes. And I've noticed particularly the 51, the 30 has various times had at least 5 cancellations. How has that impacted our performance and other stats out there? It just seems to be happening. I will just draw it to your attention as one of the questions that comes up with both operators and drivers of knowing when something's happening and when something is canceled. And it's a little hard even with the new app to determine what is canceled versus when it says it's due and the time frame of when it's going to be arriving. I note that because of the L Street corridor and what time it takes to get from one end to the other through there. And I do bring to the board the concern about the L and 5th Street location is now becoming extremely busy, and due to the fact of its proximity to the right turn and due to the fact that sometime this year or next year that is going to be becoming a two-way street with a bicycle path in there, I would recommend that RT determine through the planning staff and City Sacramento's planning how the bicycle and other availability is going to be there, because you are certainly having vehicles make turns across more than 2 lanes to make that right turn onto 5th Street, because there are multiple buses stop there for making pickups. That's my public comment. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jeffrey. And Mr. Lee, I'm sure staff is taking notes. Is there any other public comment?
Barbara Stanton has her hand up with ridership for the masses.
Welcome, Barbara.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
How are you?
I think we
Okay,
are all fine.
I just wanted to introduce myself to the new people. My name is Barbara Stanton. We have a grassroots organization called Ridership for the Masses that's comprised a group of individuals who are committed to improving ridership in the Sacramento region. We've been around for about 21 years. Oh my God. And we work primarily with SAC-RT staff, including Henry and Chris. Hi, Henry. On various issues. And from time to time, we reach out to the board. Welcome to the new members on the board. It's good to see new faces. Sean, I'm in your district, so I'm happy to see that a council person for District 2 is on the board. And we look forward to working with you all in the future again this year. And if you want to know more about Ridership for the Masses, you can Google Ridership for the Masses and it will come up, or we are at rftm.info. Thank you very much for your time, and I look forward to working with all of you in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Okay, any other members of the public? Items not on the agenda.
I don't see any other hands up.
Okay, thank you. Then we will move on to item 7.1, which is an informational item, Sacramento Region Zero Carbon Transportation Initiatives. Is there a staff report?
This item will be presented by Shelley Valentin.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
We can.
Great, thank you. Good evening, Chair Kennedy and the board. My name is Shelley Valentin. I'm the Deputy General Manager for SAC-RT, and it is great to be here tonight with friends to share the work between what we call as the 4-agency collaborative. Throughout the years, we have been sharing how the 4 agencies, which are SAC-RT, SACOG, the Sacramento Metro Air Quality Management District, and SMUD, have been partnering on shared goals. Together, the agencies have identified 4 major initiatives around transportation in our region. This alignment is important because of the historic funding that's available at the state and federal level focused on a cleaner transportation sector. Joining us tonight, please join me in welcoming our partners from each of the agencies involved. Rachel Huang, Director of Customer and Grid Strategy at SMUD. Sam Shelton, Senior Analyst at SACOG. Jaime Limus, Transportation and Climate Change Division Manager for SMUD. And representing SACRD in this collaboration is Chris Flores, who unfortunately is unable to present tonight. So tonight we plan to share the group's work product and the next steps for implementation. Next slide, please. In recognition of the importance of a focused and aligned region to advance clean mobility in support of improved air quality and reducing greenhouse gas emissions, staff from the 4 agencies has been meeting on a monthly basis to share information and to work collaboratively on initiatives to advance our transportation goals. We have recognized that our respective agencies share common goals, advancing clean transportation, resilience to climate change, and enabling healthy communities. As such, we have developed a joint strategy that brings together our organization's efforts to deliver upon these outcomes by reducing VMT, transition to zero-emission fuels, and investing in underserved communities. Next slide, please. As I mentioned, the joint strategy is centered on 4 focus areas. First is zero-emission transit fleet conversion and refueling infrastructure. Second is zero-emission goods movement and medium and heavy-duty fleet transition. The third is charging stations and clean transportation options for under-resourced communities. And the fourth is community workforce development. Late last year, the group took the strategy to the next step, developing a more detailed plan to prepare the region for the funding opportunities at the state and federal level. The collaborative produced a 28-page document and a socialization deck that can be used as a presentation on the areas the region is aligned to and are working together to attract funding. Each of the 4 areas includes additional information on goals, key activities, design concepts, and high-level timelines for achieving overall outcomes. So let's go ahead and give a bit of additional details on each of the 4 areas, starting with the first one. The transit fleet conversion and refueling infrastructure. Next slide, please. SACRD is required by the Air Resources Board to transition to 100% zero-emission bus fleet by 2040. And after 2030, any bus purchase we make must be zero emission. In total, SACRD has approximately 500 buses in our fleet, a mixture of big buses and shorter cutaways. Currently, SACRD has 24 zero-emission electric buses in our fleet, 15 are big buses, and 9 are cutaways. With support from the 4 agencies, SACRD has developed a zero-emission bus rollout plan, providing a roadmap for the transition. And we are currently considering both electric and hydrogen for our fleet. We are now moving forward with facility planning to accommodate a future zero-emission fleet. We are currently exploring potential sites for 2 new bus maintenance facilities, one in the north part of the county and one in the south area. An ideal bus maintenance facility will have the following: approximately 20 to 25 acres, be able to serve 150 to 200 vehicles, be feasible to add on-site fueling and charging facilities, be in proximity of existing transit service, and have ample space for maintenance and operational functions. And that's why it's so important that we have worked with our partners to consider what infrastructure upgrades will be needed. We need to work closely with the collaborative and share our vision for the region. And now I will turn you over to Sam Shelton with SACOG to cover the second focus area, goods movement.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Sam Shelton, Senior Analyst with SACOG, and we're happy to be a partner in our joint zero-emission vehicle planning efforts, including freight planning. Trucks are a small share of the total vehicles on the road, about 3%, but are responsible for 23% of our greenhouse gas emissions and about half of our nitrous oxide and particulate matter 2.5 emissions. So finding a way to help turn over those truck fleets to EVs or hydrogen vehicles is a real opportunity. Several years ago, SMUD was able to interview fleet managers who shared that they were discouraged by the risks of buying zero-emission vehicle trucks without supporting infrastructure for their fleet's long trips along our interstate system. Public investment likewise might wait for private industry to purchase the trucks before installing the large megawatt DC fast charging stations to ensure their use. We can avoid this chicken and the egg dilemma by helping lead infrastructure planning. And SMUD's taken a bit of that already, having completed a freight charging and refueling plan for Sacramento and West Sacramento. And SACOG plans to build off of those findings. Next slide, please. Thanks to a $500,000 grant from Caltrans, SACOG will soon kick off a freight zero emission vehicle study across the Northern California mega region. A study totaling 11 medium and heavy duty vehicle charging and refueling plazas, with about 5 located in the greater Sacramento area. We're already starting to see some private interest in the truck charging and alternative business model space, such as providing electric vehicle trucks as a service. The mega region study objectives include reducing greenhouse gas emissions, meeting state and federal mandates on fleet conversion, but also avoiding and reducing impacts of truck charging fleets and refueling traffic on under-resourced communities while pursuing improvements to address community health and safety disparities. We're also building partnerships with folks that don't normally talk with each other, such as Caltrans and MPOs and local jurisdictions on this kind of infrastructure planning and development, as well as our air districts, utilities, and fleet operators. Next slide, please. While we do have a map of initial locations throughout the mega region, we have identified in a 2020 utility-led study some of the energy needs, and that's just a starting point. We'll be digging deeper in our study about the initial $100 million cost estimate for DC fast chargers of the size of about 25 megawatts. We have yet to kick off the study. We've only just been awarded the grant funding from Caltrans, so we'll be kicking off in the coming months. We'll complete the study by early 2025. Some of the early priorities that we'll identify in this year could be eligible to attempt to go after federal and state funds. There's quite a bit of money starting to pop up for medium and heavy duty freight charging and refueling facilities, including hydrogen. So this study's timing is lining up really well with some of these ideas for future e-mobility hubs, co-location of transit refueling and access, as well as inclusive planning in our under-resourced communities. I'd be happy to pass it on to our friends looking at charging and transportation options under resource communities on the next slide. Jaime?
Thanks, everybody. Jaime Lemos here with the Sacramento Air District. And as Sam mentioned already, he talked about the big rigs and the goods movement sector as being the fewer number of those vehicles, but being a larger source of emissions. And so we also have to take a look at the passenger vehicles, right? The cars that we drive in, that we get into mostly every day, right? And we take our kids to school. And that represents a larger number of vehicles within the region, but also very similar to the truck emissions. We also have a large number of emissions being put out by these passenger vehicles. So both the big rigs, which is the goods movement sector, and the light duty passenger vehicles really make up the largest sector within our air pollution within our region. We also have to take a look at, how we're moving people around, right? We talked about moving goods around in a zero emission factor and equitably, but we also have to look at how we're moving people around, right? And as SAC-RT, that's the business that you're in, right? But as we look at, single households, as we look at individuals, we also know that there are many areas within Sacramento that many people can't get around in, right? And so we've been looking at some of these with all of our partners, and the Sustainable Communities Map is a really good tool that shows some of these areas that are underserved in many different factors, and one of those would be transportation, right? So we're looking at 52 mobility hubs within the urban areas. 52 mobility hubs all over Sacramento region, 26 within the urban areas, and then 26 within the rural areas. This way it gives a good model both for urban and rural areas. We're looking at 182 light duty EV chargers, right? Sam mentioned a little bit about this whole chicken and egg concept. And so, what do we develop first? Excuse me, the EVs or the EV charging stations. But we know that most people will not get into an EV unless there is EV charging stations. So we want to eliminate this, right? We want to do this also with hydrogen fuel. But putting 182 EV chargers within the region still is not to support the 288,000 vehicles that we're trying to get to by 2030. And of course, we have the governor's mandate, with the ban of sales for combustion vehicles. So 182 is only a drop in the bucket. Next slide, please. We're looking at investing $182 million in these 52 mobility hubs. All of the partners here, the 4 agencies have really put out, and I'm really proud of this, one of the first mobility hubs here in the nation, and that's in Del Paso. And we've learned a lot from that. We built a mobility hub from the ground, basically, all the way to what it's going to be. And so we'll be sharing an invitation very soon on the ribbon cutting for that. But really, it lends itself to share that we learned a lot from that mobility hub in order to deploy these 52 mobility hubs, because not every community is built the same. Not every community has the same needs. Every community is built differently, and every community has different needs, right? And so we have to really embrace the community, understand the community, talk to the community about what those needs are. This is the way we get the community to really adopt those mobility hubs. And a lot of this is really stemming out from, again, the Sustainable Communities Map. We know here within the Sacramento region, the areas that are underserved, but not all of those areas may need a mobility hub. So we're really engaged with the community to make sure that if a mobility hub goes in there, we know what the profile would be to make sure that we fit those transportation needs. Next slide, please. So we're looking at level 2 chargers is really what we're focusing on. There is a sprinkle of DC fast chargers within some priority areas. Not everybody needs a DC fast charger. Everybody says, we want DC fast chargers because we want to get in and get out. But the reality is that most people, and that's even us in our work and in our capacity, we bring in our EVs to charge at work. And so we know that even with our car share programs, many of those are level 2s. And we do have some DC fast chargers in there to make sure that there is enough fuel in the tank, right? So when we need it, but mostly level 2s is what we need. As I mentioned already, the Sustainable Communities Map that SMUD has developed along with all of our partners, we have lots of tools, including all of you and all of your stakeholders. So we'll be reaching out with the IRA funding and lots of funding opportunities that many of you know about. We're looking at a lot of opportunities where we could submit proposals to be able to put many of these hubs in. Of course, we're working with our partners like Community Resource Projects, La Familia, and many others, Green Tech, because they're the ones that are out there and they know what the community is. And so we don't want to do this without them. We want to do this in partnership with them since they understand the community. And so with that, I will pass it on to Rachel Hong from SMUD. Thank you.
Thank you, Jaime. And thank you to the RT board for having me tonight. SMUD definitely appreciates the partnership that we have with RT as well as the other partners we have within the 4-agency collaborative. So the last topic area of our strategy is community workforce development. We recognize that this transition to a zero-emission transportation future, it's a huge opportunity for our region to enable inclusive economic development by training members of our community, particularly those that are within our underrepresented and under-resourced communities, and creating a pathway for them from training to employment within high-paying, clean jobs. And this actually matches really well with the significant need of skilled staffing to support the zero emission transitions and those 3 focus areas that actually my partners just mentioned. And frankly, we actually need to have a lot more workforce, and we're not going to be able to make that transition at the pace that our statewide goals are requiring unless we have additional skilled workforce. Next slide, please. So we are seeking opportunities for external funding to support workforce development. We're doing it in a number of ways. We recognize that there are specific workforce development funding opportunities, as well as those that are actually woven into the transportation space. We're taking both approaches, given the importance and how workforce development can help contribute towards supporting equity goals and investments in disadvantaged communities, as well as under-resourced communities. We're seeking $145 million, recognizing that we're going to need to engage with our communities in different ways to build our future workforce from members of the community in an inclusive way. Next slide, please. So to accomplish this, our strategy includes multiple facets. It includes identifying the jobs needed and assessing the skills required for entry-level employment. It's partnering with our educational institutions, trade organizations, community-based organizations, and others to continue building and expanding training programs relative to the skills that we've identified that we need. We're going to be working with key partners to ensure that training includes job preparedness and placement, as well as helping guide participants in things like writing resumes, securing interviews, as well as supporting them even through the early stage of employment by ensuring access to wraparound services like childcare, transportation, case management, and more. We know that it's important to establish strong relationships with the trades and employers, labor organizations, and regional employers from the start to ensure that the training programs meet those needs, as well as to ensure that the candidates are prepared for jobs from the employers for themselves. We've actually started this work already and are collaborating with community-based organizations to train members of our under-resourced communities in multiple technology areas, including distributed generation, installing electric space and water heating equipment, as well as electric transportation infrastructure. And we've started a workforce development program in partnership with the California Mobility Center, specifically focused on those clean jobs. And with those efforts, we're working on towards 4,000 people trained and at least 1,000 people hired into high-paying clean energy jobs by 2024. I see Board Member Venezuela has her hand up.
Oh, I didn't mean to interrupt. I can wait till the end.
Okay. And with that, actually, I will hand it over back to Shelley.
Thank you, Rachel, and everyone. So I want to just conclude by summarizing and highlighting the importance of this document. We have thought carefully about our mobility priorities and how we move people in our communities, while at the same time addressing climate change and uplifting underserved communities. SACRT is very appreciative of the partnership and the collaboration across the 4 agencies. We are so proud to be presenting this as a group to you all tonight. A copy of this presentation and also the full document is available in our staff report. So we are all in alignment moving towards a zero emission transportation sector, and we are happy to hear additional feedback from our board and for you to provide additional guidance on how you would like to see us moving forward. And that concludes our presentation, and we're happy to answer any questions.
I'm muted. Director Valenzuela.
Thank you, Chair Kennedy, and thank you all for that presentation and that update. I had read the document, I think when it came out, I think you said last year, and putting this in context is really helpful. I wanted to hone in a little bit on the last slides on workforce development. I don't really want us to spend too much time trying to create pathways that already exist. And something that I'm really concerned about in climate work, both here in Sacramento and statewide, is our partnership with the trade unions and really making sure that we're not reinventing the wheel, that these jobs we create are high road jobs, not just high paying jobs, but, jobs with benefits. And, a lot of this work that what the apprenticeships do, but then what the pre-apprenticeships do and what organizations do to really support folks as they're entering in. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about how we're aligning with that. I know several of them have asked me specifically about EV charging and how they could try to get at the table for this exciting plan. But there is a tension here because I feel like sometimes what we do in climate is we try to go fast and instead of going deep. And that sometimes means that we sometimes will trade off going with a lower bid competitor to go out and say, do home improvements rather than go with somebody who might be providing those types of high quality job opportunities. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about maybe Rachel, I see you came back on screen, how that's working in this plan.
Sure. And I think when we developed this plan, it was really sort of that strategic approach. There's sort of the tactical work that we're doing. And I think you're right in that we're not trying to create, new training programs for new positions. We're trying to actually utilize what are existing positions that might exist and making sure that people have access to be able to do the actual application, but within certain job classifications. And that's whether it's EV installations for charging or building electrification and things like that. We're definitely approaching that of like, how do we more sort of be able to enable them to do the end use piece versus necessarily trying to create new classifications. So we're not necessarily trying to create any kind of new classifications or new job descriptions.
No, I appreciate that. I guess maybe this is a question then for the folks who talked about some of the grants that we've applied for. Are we planning on partnering with contractors and with organizations that employ these trade unions? Because that's part of the chicken and egg here, is that until they get enough demand for these jobs, it's hard for them to train a bunch of people to say, hey, we're all only going to do EV charging, because if the jobs aren't there, then what are they training them for? So I guess I just want to make sure it's the grants that RT is participating in, really creating those opportunities for high quality jobs. So maybe that's a question for the folks who talked about the grants we're applying for to implement the EV charging hubs.
Director Valenzuela, I'll take a little bit of a crack at this one. I think in this space with EV charging, there's a little bit of a difficulty specifically in this, and this is maybe where we can even ask some of the elected officials for help here, because there are certain specific trade unions that have created very specific EV charging certifications that only select electricians and electrical corporations or companies within the Sacramento region even have the certification. It's called the EVITP certification program, and it has made it extremely difficult for us to even hire any electrician here locally within the Sacramento area. We've talked with the electrical trade unions even about this, because the certification process is very challenging, and it leaves many of our electrical folks and companies out here within the region. And so that's something that we are definitely looking into, because we definitely want to support the unions, and we definitely want to support both local mom and pop electrical companies, right? And spread kind of the grant funding out. Even within our grant process and the dollars given out from the California Air Resources Board, the EVITP is something that is mandatory, but then there's also a condition within some of the grants to hire local electrical companies so that we can ensure these high-paying jobs, right? So even amongst ARB, it's creating a little bit of a challenge. And so this is something that has been brought up to ARB as well. And as of right now, there doesn't seem to be a clear path on how to get more companies certified. And so we're still at it. And even us as the Air District, it's important for us because we want to move on a lot of these projects, and it's really challenging.
Okay. Well, my last comment then, I guess, will be that this sounds like something that's missing from the strategy in terms of making sure that maybe we're applying or working with the chambers to try to get that certification to more of our small local businesses, because obviously we want both high quality jobs and we want that benefit and that economic reward to come to people who are working here locally as much as we can. So I would just highlight that as maybe an opportunity for not just continued conversation, but actual part of the strategy is if we're seeing a gap in local providers who can meet those requirements, then we want to make sure that that's happening. And we're not just kind of going out and lowering the standard for these jobs, because we want the highest quality project, the highest quality jobs, and for local people to benefit kind of all at the same time. So that's it for me, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Budge.
Thank you, Patrick. And I appreciate Katie's comment simply because, especially over the last couple of years, there has been so much money for training coming out of the feds and the state government, from the American Recovery Act program and whatnot. And so both the city of Rancho Cordova and the Rancho Cordova Chamber of Commerce are involved in several different training programs. They're not specifically EV oriented, but there's a lot of money on running around right now for employee training or up training. But I have two specific questions, and they might be for Jaime. Jaime, define a level 2 charger.
In general terms, a level 2 charger is something that would refuel your electric vehicle in about 4 hours or so. A DC fast charger would refill or fully fill your vehicle within a matter of 30 to 45 minutes. And then a level 3 charger is something that we typically would have at home where we plug in overnight.
Okay, I get it. The fast charger is the fast charger is at Pea Soup Anderson's, down at where the road takes off to Monterey. And we have the NEMA something or other at home. So I get the distinction. Thank you. And then the real question is, you keep talking about hydrogen, but there hasn't really been any public conversation about hydrogen since Arnold Schwarzenegger was governor. So what's going on behind the scenes that none of us are aware of and might be bringing hydrogen out of a warehouse in West Sacramento into the basic public discourse?
Yeah, there is actually a lot of conversations in the region about hydrogen. We have been at it here at the agency for over a year now. But to give you an idea about our hydrogen capacity here in Sacramento is we produce, and then, we meaning a company here in Sacramento produces liquid hydrogen that gets tube trailered to the Bay Area. And then that hydrogen is compressed into fuel or fueling hydrogen or hydrogen fuel, and it gets tube trailered back to Sacramento, and it gets put into our Shell stations and some of our hydrogen stations that we have for light duty vehicles. We are in the process of getting more of those facilities here, the fueling facilities, but we're also in the process of bringing hydrogen producers here in the region. One of our goals here for the Air District and our director, Alberto Ayala, has said, we need to have our own hydrogen production here. So we are in the process of doing this. We've been talking with SAC-RT, we've been talking with SMUD and SACOG about the importance of that. And so a few years ago, we would have to basically pay people to come down to talk to us about producing hydrogen. And now we have people saying, all we need is land and we can produce the hydrogen for you. And so we are talking with folks at Sacramento County. We have some proposals in with Sacramento County and with us, the Air District, to get some hydrogen production in place. And now really it's a matter of siting. Where do we feel is a good siting for it? We're looking at areas like the bus maintenance facility number 2 that SAC-RT owns. We're looking at Kiefer Landfill. We're looking at West Sacramento. We're looking at regional sanitation as well, and even the industry complex by the airport as well, Capital Commerce. So those are some areas that we've been looking at for the production of hydrogen. But most, at least here within the region, I think we are ready to deploy some hydrogen production and facilities. Again, going back to the chicken and egg concept, I want to make sure that our fleets can say we have a place where we can fuel, as opposed to saying we can't buy vehicles because we have no place to fuel. So we are making a financial commitment to deploy hydrogen production and fueling here within the Sacramento region.
So I appreciate that. You said it might be available in Shell stations?
Yeah, currently we do have it available in some Shell stations. I know that there's even a permitting process that's going through right now for Florin and Franklin. There's one in Fair Oaks and in different areas within Sacramento County. I think we have a total of 5 or 6, and then the one in West Sac as well.
And somebody's actually selling vehicles that can be fueled by hydrogen?
Yes, there are. I believe we have a little over 6,000 vehicles that are hydrogen based here within Sacramento.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I will suggest to our board member, Donald Terry, that he put you all in touch with either GSAC or with our economic development director. There's not everybody has industrial space available, but we do. So
We'd
interesting
appreciate it.
to know. Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Director Kozlowski.
Yeah, hi. Can you hear me okay? I'm trying out a new headset. Okay. I was pleased to hear Director Valenzuela's comments, because often these programs skitter off the track when we start putting requirements on things that may be unnecessary or not detailed enough. Either way, and I guess I just want to ask the question of Jaime whether, because I heard you say that there are a whole myriad of issues with the certification that exists currently. Is the principal thing that the certification exists, or that it's too difficult, or that there aren't enough people who are certified, or there aren't enough people to be certified regionally? Because it could be any one of those things being the real sticking point. And I'm just wondering if, my point is, and I'll just take an answer and be done. The work to install an EV charger is principally just electrical infrastructure. So why there's a necessity for a special certification in our requirements, that's the part that I think might be the way to unlock this a little bit, and then get the incorporation of more local and small businesses that hopefully are signatory to the IBEW or other union, but open up the ability of others to participate that might be locked out otherwise.
No, we definitely agree. And I think it's a couple of those issues. I think one is state funding or state grants require the CVITP certification to ensure that, that there's a minimum standard or minimum level of standard that these chargers are being installed. We're not against that. We definitely agree. There is one certification outfit, and that certification outfit does minimal certification, I guess, cohort, and that has been the challenge, I think. Most electrical contractors can take the online web class, but it's the actual certification, I think, exam or certification process that is the hang up. And so we've been trying to even get that requirement removed, but we're not sure exactly how it even got on, or it's something that is going to be really challenging, and probably a legislative move to remove that requirement.
Is it that, or should Metro Air District become a test giver? I mean, can you become a testing agency?
I'm sorry, I don't understand. Can you repeat that again?
Could the Sac Metro Air District become a testing agency and remove that blockage?
We may not be the right people, but we definitely are in support of having here in Sacramento have someone be someone to be a certifier. Absolutely.
Chair Kennedy, this is Shelley. I want to add also just an additional point as far as SAC-RT is preparing for this. Because we are not the only ones in this boat, right? All of the other transit agencies in California need to prepare for this. And we are already preparing our own workforce for this new training and need. In fact, we are working with the California Transit Training Consortium out of Southern California. And our staff is going to be attending some trainings already next month to be able to prepare and learn more and anticipate what are the additional challenges and technical needs as a result of this new ZEV requirement.
All right, anything else, Director Kozlowski?
Just my final 2 cents that it sounds like a certification that's not necessary if you're a licensed electrician.
Okay. Yeah, Director Budge, I think, has something to address there.
I'm not sure it's required, but having dealt with, I'm sorry, guys, 4 houses since we bought the car in 2016. There are very specific local electricians who specialize in installing this NEMA, whatever it is, charger that you need in your house. So for what it's worth,
okay.
I think I can give you a recommendation.
All right, Director Laloy.
Thank you very much, Chair, and I want to thank the staff for the wonderful presentation. My question is to Rachel from SMUD. As far as the grid at SMUD goes, where are we with the investment on that, the capacity of the grid? As you recall, when we hit the 100-degree weathers in Sacramento, the governor asked us not to plug in our cars and just sit tight. And then this past weekend, I just read an article that quite a bit of Teslas decided to go to Mammoth and plug in, and their grid completely shut down for hours. So is SMUD also kind of getting ready and improving that grid for these wonderful projects that are coming on board? Thank you.
Yes, that's a great question, and I know probably a very popular question, sort of following the September, heat wave that we had, and even after the storms that we had in January with regards to how do we think about grid resilience. The answer is, SMUD's actually been looking at it for many years, and we continue to refine our analysis. So, actually years ago, even before there was really a lot of mass EV adoption, we were forecasting what we thought EV adoption might be, where the geographical clustering of adoption would be, and how we need to think about our grid. SMUD actually, and my team specifically, actually worked with our distribution planning team over the last year, and are actually just finishing up the analysis, updating the analysis on, how are we looking at transformer loading from a residential standpoint. Sam actually talked about the work that they're doing from a regional basis under the Caltrans grant on infrastructure to support medium and heavy duty. Sam talked about the work that SMUD did for the greater Sacramento region plus West Sacramento that looked at both electric and hydrogen for medium and heavy duty, thinking about not only the EV charging that's needed, but if we did localized electrolysis to support creating hydrogen to fuel medium and heavy duty vehicles. So we've actually been doing a lot of analysis and planning to say, where will we have, where adoption will go, where we need to either make different investments from a grid standpoint. So we've actually been pretty proactive about that. The other thing we did last year is we launched a managed EV charging pilot. So first starting out with Ford and BMW, I think maybe Honda will be launching it with Tesla this year as well. And kind of based upon the analysis that we're doing is at a residential or light duty standpoint, if customers can do managed charging, which is like looking at different signals and trying to stay off peak. SMUD actually has that discount of $0.015 for residential customers for your whole house if you charge between midnight and 6. And the very, very large majority of our residential homeowners who have vehicles, or residential customers who have vehicles, are following that price signal. So they're not adding to load during peak, but are in charging in off-peak timeframes between midnight and 6. And there's obviously a financial incentive to do so as well. With this managed charging pilot that we just started last summer and expect to expand and really, scale, we can see that actually by managing EV charging, a lot of the grid implications can be mitigated, and you actually don't need to do grid upgrades if you can manage charging. Now, there will be a population of transformers that pop and things like that. And so we're actually doing, like I said, doing analysis, which is, okay, with the transformers that we have, which ones are close to being overloaded, and therefore how do we need to be targeted with regards to replacements, especially as we're doing other things like changing out poles and things like that. So the long answer, but the short answer is we've been doing actually quite a bit of analysis over the years, have updated our analysis in the last year to really be pinpointed in how we address making sure that our grid is ready, because the state has aggressive goals. SMUD has very aggressive goals with regards to transportation electrification, and very much recognize that the grid has to be ready. It goes back to Jaime's point too, is like, if you build it, they'll come. I think we just updated our EV strategy last year and presented it to our board last spring. And really the shift in focus was, we're going to continue to encourage people to adopt electric vehicles, but as a utility, our strategy needs to be focused on how do we ensure that there's charging infrastructure available, and how do we make sure that the grid is designed in a way to handle it, but in a way that's optimized so that we're not pouring money into upgrading the grid, but really doing it in a smart way.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other board members before we go to the public? Seeing none. Nick Bryant, you at one point had your hand up. Was that for this item? Okay.
Hang on, he was muted.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yes. Looks like RT's going to do that, but what is that going to look like for our buses, fixed rail buses? Is that going to affect our buses? Is that going to affect everything, or what's that going to look like for us?
I'm sorry, so you got cut off through the beginning of that. Can you restate the question?
About the hydrogen of our buses. I mean, what is that going to look like? Like the charging, like is that are these going to be electric buses where you have to charge up your buses now?
Yes, that's the idea. Yes.
So we're going to get. So that means Sacramento Regional Transit is going to have electric buses now.
We already do. We've got a number of them in place, both the smaller buses as well as full size. Matter of fact, if you have seen the airport shuttle or bus, that is typically electric. We're already
yeah.
making the transition. Yes.
That's a lot. That's a lot of money for us to be seeing that Newsom is trying to get electric buses, electric vehicles. That's a lot of money for you guys. And I'm sorry that you guys have to deal with that, go through this, but it's a lot of money. Electric vehicles, it's costing a lot of money.
Okay, is that your comment? All right, thank you very much. Barbara, you had your hand up, but I don't think it's up now. Barbara Stanton?
Yeah, I actually don't see her on anymore. And now
Okay.
Jeffrey Tardigia's hand is up.
Okay, Jeffrey, go ahead.
Am I unmuted?
You are unmuted.
I heard before that we had to do a separate circuit for the causeway or the airport buses. Exactly right now, what is SMUD's facility load for transit buses? Is it 14? Is it 25? Is a SMUD circuit for more than 100 buses being charged available? And will there be 3 areas where that's likely available to? Are we right now with the current load at 50% electrical load to that? Or is it merely 10% that we have that we know that are being used for electrical charging? That's, I guess, a SMUD question to be directed.
Okay, so is there someone from staff that can respond in a short answer?
I believe we can talk to him,
Okay.
to Jennifer later on.
Thank you very much. All right, so staff will get back to you, Jeffrey, to give you a complete answer. Any other member of the public?
I don't see any hands up, but I did want to make a note for the record that Director Hume did join us at 5:40 at the beginning of 7.1.
Great. All right. This, as I said, this is an informational item. Thank you very much to staff from all of the agencies. As somebody who actually ran SMUD's electric vehicle charging installation program in the 90s, I will tell you that I have complete confidence that SMUD will be prepared. I've met with their planning staff, and they've been forward thinking. We even did a study back in the early 90s about how many houses in the Sacramento area would have to have retrofit panel in order to meet the need, and it was a relatively small number. And as I said, from a bigger perspective of the grid, I am extremely impressed with how the thought that they've put into this already and have been for many years, and confident that we'll be able to handle this. As far as costs go, climate's going to be very expensive. Okay, if that's all, then we will move on to item number 8, the general manager's report.
Thank you, Chair. First, I want to thank Rachel, Sam, and Hamid for joining Sherry to present this highly collaborative and we work collaborative initiative, and we work together. 4 agencies work together over last year to we met about like over a dozen of times and did a lot of analysis. And finally, we have this presentation to 4 different boards. And we will take our board members' feedback very seriously, and we will work more broader partners like trade unions and others to implement this aggressive plan. With that, I will go to my report. Again, good evening, Chair Kennedy, members of the board and the public. Thank you for joining us today. To begin, I want to wish everyone a happy Black History Month. In recognition of Black History Month, SACRT has been exploring, celebrating, and highlighting the rich history, lives, and stories of African Americans. On February 4th, SACRT celebrated the life and legacy of Rosa Parks to raise awareness of the significant role that transit has played in the American civil rights movement. As part of our recognition, SACRT reserved a seat on each of our buses and provided free rides on all SACRT fixed routes buses in honor of Rosa Parks' birthday. And move on to the next slide. Last week, we had the pleasure of sharing SACRT vision, accomplishments, projects, and priorities when we hosted officials from the Federal Transit Administration's Region 9 office in San Francisco. We were joined by Congresswoman Matsui, Board Chair Kennedy, and FTA Deputy Administrator Amy Chen-Chin. And we truly were very grateful of both Congresswoman and Chair Kennedy spending the whole 4 hours, or more than 4 hours, their time with our presentations, discussions, and bus tours with FTA and SACRT teams and representatives from Senator Pendena's office and SACOG. The visit included presentations from both FTA and SACRT and a site tour of the downtown Riverside streetcar line, Sacramento Valley Loop project, light rail station conversions, and their planned bus rapid transit line on Stockton Boulevard. The meeting was highly inspirational, and we look forward to hosting more federal team members such as Secretary Buttigieg, FTA Administrator, and other officials from DC and Region 9 in the future. The next slide. I want to congratulate SACRT's communication and marketing team for winning the first place award in the 2023 APTA Atwell Award competition. The SACRT team has won the award from the best marketing and communications to highlight transit needs. We have been recognized for our Citizens Transit Academy, a free 5-class course designed to educate and engage residents, business, and community leaders about our planning process and how public transit shapes our communities. Since launched in early 2019, over 100 people have graduated from this class. The next slide. Early this month, Moody's Investors Service published a research report on the financial status of California's transit agencies. The report found that SACRT has an A2 financial rating and one of the most favorable outlooks of any agencies. Let me read a quote about SACRT from this report. It says, the agency will add to already sound operating liquidity by the end of fiscal year 2023, providing additional cushion to weather operating headwinds from potential sales tax volatility as the economy cools, rising expenditures, especially from labor costs, and the end of federal pandemic aid, which SACRT officials plan to spend down by the end of fiscal year 2025, which is June 2026. This report also noted SACRT has first improved liquidity position from prudent financial management, federal aid infusions, and strong sales tax performance. Second, ample debt service coverage on bond ordinance basis, giving pledge of local transportation fund distributions generated from local sales tax, and an economy anchored by the state of California's capital, several higher education and healthcare institutions. Additionally, early this month, the SACRT Retirement Board held a special retirement board meeting focused on the status of SACRT's pension plans. Over the last 10 years, our three pensions funded ratios increased by more than 10%. We anticipate that over the next 5 years, all three pensions funded ratios will be over 85%, and in 10 years, by 2030, 10 years from now, all three ratios will be 100%. This is extremely important message and very exciting news too, because by 2030, our pension cost will be reduced by over like $30 to $20 million. Then we can use that money, the saving, put that back to the service. I mean, this is really due to great pension management policies and diligent practices by staff, consultants, and our board of directors. The next slide. Speaking of strong financial practices and being a good steward of taxpayers' dollars, Chris and I had the honor last week of spending nearly an hour and a half with the Sacramento grand jury, highlighting SACRT's vision, amazing accomplishments, as well as exciting projects and programs. Grand jury is the only independent watchdog investigative body in the county. It has diligently monitored the performance of local governments and ensured that the institutions of government are responsive and fair to those who are governed, and the taxpayers' dollars are used wisely. It was truly a great pleasure updating them on SACRT's initiatives, and they were thoroughly impressed how the agency has been able to transform itself over the last multiple years to become a leader and a model of success for the industry. And Chris and my only regret is that they had only given us some positive feedback for the agency and did not assign us some homework. So several jurors actually highly appraised our students' right-free program. The next, it's about light rail station modification. And I just want to thank SACRT team on progressing our light rail station modification project effectively this month. Over 2 weekends in February, our team was able to successfully complete the construction of the platform modification at the 48th and the 59th Street stations. 1.5 days for one station we complete, one station within 1.5 days. And which normally we say, we will say a public agency will spend probably a week to complete. The next 2 station modifications will take place at the 39th Street and 29th Street stations. The 39th Street station will be closed for construction on March 4th and 5th, and the 29th Street station will be closed for construction the weekend March 11th and March 12th. A bus bridge will be in place during the closures, and the normal light rail service will resume on the following Mondays. And this is a significant milestone as we accelerate our light rail modernization efforts and prepare to launch the new low-floor vehicles into our Gold Line service, entire Gold Line service, hopefully by spring or in the middle of next year. Then, continuing the topic of system improvements, as we just talked about, the ZEV strategies. At the beginning of February, the first of 2 new CNG compressors was delivered and will be fully installed by this summer at our bus maintenance facility 1 in 29th Street. This replaces the outdated compressor and will significantly speed up filling of buses, leading to improved operational efficiency. As many of you might have noticed on your gas bills recently, CNG prices are the most expensive in recent years, with the State Department of General Services notifying all its customers of a possible 10 times increase in prices for January 2023. Natural gas cost for FY 2023 has been higher than expected, with the December 2022 bill increasing month-over-month by 100%. SACRT's normal price for natural gas is approximately 70 cents per therm, with December's bill increasing to $1.40 per therm. January's expected price is $4.95 or $5 per therm, which is approximately 600 times higher than our normal price. Prices are expected to return to normal levels in the coming months, but the total FY 2023 budget impact is estimated at $3.5 million. Our annual budget for CNG is about $2.5 million. Now it's about $6 million. And we will continue to monitor the situation closely, but this is a big impact on our budget. Next slide. As we begin the new year, it is also the beginning of a new 2-year state legislative session. There are a number of new faces in the state legislature, including from Sacramento region. We have been meeting with the new state delegation to update and educate them on SACRT's priorities. SACRT will be sponsoring 2 separate pieces of legislation this cycle. I want to thank Assemblymember Stephanie Nguyen, previously Elk Grove Council member, for introducing legislation to improve SACRT's public contract code and adding 1 more board seat from Elk Grove, which staff is scheduling a meeting for board ad hoc committee to discuss this further. I think it's March 15th. Then Assemblymember Kevin McCarthy has introduced legislation that would update our authority to place a tax measure on the ballot. Specifically, it would allow a jurisdiction within SACRT's boundaries, such as the city of Sacramento, to tax itself to benefit SACRT. We are hopeful to move these 2 bills through the legislative process while continuing to receive board new guidance. To conclude my remarks, I want to remind everyone that the Sacramento Regional Transit District is turning 50 years old this year on April 1st, 50 years. We have a number of events planned to celebrate the significant role we have played in shaping our community over the past half century. There will be various fun activities for employees and customers being planned. Please keep an eye out for more information over the next several months. This, Mr. Chair, this concludes my GM report, and I would be glad to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Henry. Are there any questions of the board?
You don't look a day above 49, Henry. Good job.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Director Singh Allen?
Thank you. Thank you, Henry, for that great presentation. And SAC-RT's come a long way. And I would really attribute a lot of the great advancements to your leadership. So thank you for the update and all the great work that you're doing, and the team, of course.
Team, thank you. And the board too.
Absolutely. It takes a village, but you're the leader of this organization and you're doing great things. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director. Any other board members? Do we have anyone from the public like to speak at this time?
Nick Bryant has his hand up.
Mr. Bryant. Nick?
I want to thank Henry Lee for everything, and I want to appreciate what he's been doing.
Nick, we can't hear you, or at least I can't.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, I want to thank Henry Lee on everything and appreciate what he's done to our communities with SAC-RT and other things. But there were some other things I wanted to address. Is that I've seen a lot of Connect car machines not working on their buses, not working on our at light rail stations. Most of them has been cracked, and most of our screens need to be replaced because homeless people are cracking our machines. They're damaging them. So I feel like it needs to be fixed, and we need to switch our Connect car machines on light rail vehicles from now on, because we can't trust homeless people anymore. We can't trust anybody. That's going to mess our machines anymore. So it's like we need to transfer them on our light rail vehicles. I would ask Henry if we can get to work on it. Henry, what do you think that we can do with them, with the machines?
We will take on this as soon as possible. Thank you for reminding us on that.
Yes.
Is that all, Nick?
Sure.
Yeah.
Why are you in the skirt? Hi.
I don't know. That's it. I do want to say thank you for everything with our team, what they've done. Thank you, Henry.
Thank you, Nick. Any other member of the public?
Jeffrey Tartagia has his hand up.
Jeffrey, you're up.
Henry, are you going to mention about the effort that you're doing with KVIE on March 23rd? I just bring that to your attention, and I hope the other board members know about that. That's my comment right now, and I will ask you more tomorrow.
Thank you.
Okay. Any others?
I don't see any other hands up.
All right, thank you very much. With that takes us to item number 9.1, the San Joaquin Joint Powers Authority meeting summary. Do you have anything to add, Director Hume?
Apologies, I do not, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And 9.2, Capital Corridor Joint Powers Authority meeting summary as of February 15th. Directors Daniels or Maple, do you have anything to add?
I have nothing to add.
Thank you. All right. With that, then, if there's no other board members that would like to address the board at this time, I believe we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
All right. Good evening.
Good evening.